marriage is the beginning of a journey. Now, when you get married, it's a new phase of your life that is starting. Now, because we as Africans have started looking at marriage as an achievement, that is one of the reasons why we're having so many divorces, so many broken homes, especially in the diaspora. Hello everyone, and welcome back to What Time Is It? The #1 talk show where we share opinions about the African mentality, culture, development, entertainment, and lifestyle. Now, for those of you I haven't met yet, my name is Ntubenane, and I am your host. So, to start this year off, I would like us to talk about a pertinent topic that has become an issue in our various communities, which is marriage. Now, in order to narrow down what I would like us to share in the upcoming weeks, we're going to focus on marriage in the context of Africans living in the diaspora. So for the next few weeks, we're going to be talking about what the expectations of an African man is when it comes to marriage, what the expectation of an African woman is when it comes to marriage. We'll look at the reasons why African marriages in the diaspora are failing. We'll also look at the role of children in marriages. We'll look at time management. Is this a core factor for the reasons why marriages are failing? And a few other topics that we'll get to learn about in the upcoming weeks. So in order to start today's video, I would like us to first of all look at the definition of marriage. Marriage could be defined as the union between a man and a woman, or the voluntary union between a man and a woman, and it usually lasts for a lifetime. Now, this is pretty much the same thing with Africans, or in the African context. Marriage is between a man and a woman for life. Now, that said, I would like us to first of all take a look at what marriage has been like in Africa before the 21st century, and then go into what marriage is right now and why there's a need to talk about it. Now, if you look at before, when our forefathers, great-great-great-grandfathers were getting married, you realize that in African communities, when a young man was of age to get married, his father made that decision. And the father would look at a bride from a good family, and they'll have the negotiations, and boom, that person is married. Now, that's something that's very different with young Africans today, because now the gentlemen have the task of going to look for their wives. They actually bring the wives to the family and say, hey, this is the person I want to get married to, before the negotiation starts. Another thing I'd like us to look at is the fact that with African marriages, way before the 21st century, the man was the provider of the family. So typically the women would stay at home. Some had farms that they would go to, life was primarily farming, or the means of survival was farming for Africans. So the women would go to the farm, harvest food, come, cook, take care of the kids, and the husband were charged with hunting and providing, say, meat, and even some of the food that the family would consume. Now, raising children especially was mostly tasked to the women, and that is something that has changed a lot, not just in the African communities in Africa, but even with Africans living in the diaspora. Marriage, when it comes to Africans or the African continent, and even those living in the diaspora, will realize that marriage has evolved a lot. Some things that were normal are no longer normal. For instance, African men would typically marry 1, 2, 3 wives. Actually, a man's worth in the African context was measured by the number of women he married and the number of children. That's how wealth was measured. But today, nobody wants to hear about that. Like, it's one man, one woman. It's still a struggle. For those back in Africa, you still have certain cultures where men can marry 1, 2, 3 women, especially amongst the Muslims of Africa. But Africans in the diaspora, it's a no-no. It's one man, one woman. Now, there is increase in divorce rates. Now you wonder why this is a problem. It's because the typical African, you get married for life, which means you don't divorce, you know, and even when it gets so bad and the woman has to leave or the man has to leave the woman, whichever happens, the families still remain one family. So say a girl is married to a guy and they get a divorce. If something happens on that in that girl's family, her ex-husband's family still shows up, because once that traditional rite is done and it's established that these two people are married, it's a lifetime thing. And because we keep hearing stories of people divorcing, people leaving marriages in the diaspora, it brings the question, what is going wrong? Why is this a concern? Why do we need to talk about this? Now, it's very fair for me to mention that Africa is the largest continent in the world. And it's also one of the most populated continents in the world, which means whatever affects Africa affects the world at large. And you realize that Africans are beginning to move from their very strict ways of marrying only Africans to now marrying other people. Marriage is becoming a very diverse thing in the African communities, which is a good thing, but we still have a problem that we need to address. Why do we have so many divorces? So for the remainder of this month, we're going to have videos where we talk about what the expectations of an African man is when they're getting into marriage versus the reality. We're going to look at the expectations of African women versus the realities. We're going to talk about why these marriages are actually breaking up, or why are so many Africans in the diaspora getting divorced. We're going to talk about the role of children in marriages. We're going to talk about a lot of things that will help all of us understand why certain changes are happening, how we can fix some of these things, or we'll just propose ideas on how to make this better. But most especially, I want to say this: if you're a young person, you're hoping to get married, whether you're an African living in the diaspora or you are someone from a different race looking to getting married to an African, I want to plead with you to pay attention to this series, because there's a lot that we're going to learn. You know, a lot of research has been put in. I've spoken to a lot of people to come up with these ideas. And I hope that the next few weeks are going to be very interesting for all of us. Now, that said, I would like to point this out. It's very common to find Africans on different social media platforms arguing about marriage being an achievement or not. Now, I wanted to take the opportunity to address this on this video and say that marriage is not an achievement, because as per the definition of an achievement, marriage is the beginning of a journey. Now, when you get married, it's a new phase of your life that is starting. Now, because we as Africans have started looking at marriage as an achievement, that is one of the reasons why we're having so many divorces, so many broken homes, especially in the diaspora. Now, I know you're going to ask yourself, why is it that people living in Africa do not have the same problems as those who have moved to the diaspora? Guess what? This is what we're going to be addressing in the upcoming weeks. Now, while I was doing research on this issue of marriage, I wrote something down that I would like to read so that we all can put a big star, like a very big star on. And it says, the reality of marriage is that it shatters the dream world most young people perceive it to be. Thus, it is safe to say that marriage is an eye-opener to the realities of a man and a woman living together. Now, I know marriage is something that people, when we use our imagination, we think it's something that's very easy, you know, it's supposed to be this way. You know, why is it not going this way? Now, newsflash, that is not what marriage is. Marriage is a journey that you have that needs dedication, it needs hard work, it needs sacrifice, it needs a lot of things that we're going to cover in the upcoming videos in order for it to succeed. And the only way you can consider your marriage as an achievement is when you've made it to the end of the marriage, which means, say you lost a partner, but then what if your partner passes 1 year after you get married? it really doesn't qualify. So I would like to just go ahead and add that for you to say that your marriage has been successful, you have to put in a certain number of years, you know, at least on an average 10 years, because that's enough time for certain changes to have happened in that relationship. That said, we've come to the end of this video. I do hope you enjoyed it. Please do not forget to leave a comment, and also do not forget to check our social media pages. You can find a link in the description of the channel, or you'll find the different links in the description of the channel to go to our various social media platforms. Now, like I would always say, sharing is caring and knowledge is power. Therefore, sharing knowledge is caring powerfully. So please like and share this video. And until next time, you've been watching What Time Is It? Ciao.